Welcome to Paranormal Connections with your host, Christina George, only on DTMWithRadio.com.
All righty. Well, welcome, everybody, to Paranormal Connections. I am your host, Christina George, and for the next 2 hours, we are going to be talking all things paranormal. This week is no different. I have another very interesting guest. It is so interesting that I meet so many great people in the paranormal. I will tell you that as much as many people know that I really hate the whole being in the public eye role, and I really kind of liked it when I was just doing my investigating and nobody knew who the hell I was. And then all of a sudden, I started sharing my experiences. I started talking about my cases. I started bringing on people on my radio show that had paranormal experiences as well, consulting, all these different things. And, all of a sudden everybody starts paying attention. But the good side of all that is that I have met some of the most amazing and interesting people. I know that people all the time think that I'm so interesting because I have all these crazy, paranormal stories to tell and things that happen all the time. But even for me, it's nice to hear other people's stories, their journeys that got them into the paranormal, because the one thing that we see over and over and over in my show, no matter who my guests are, is that, again, they all seem to have a very personal reason for getting into the paranormal. And, so it is kind of a personal journey, which then kind of makes this turn where they actually then start trying to use what they have learned over the years and help other people. So for me, it's very interesting and it's very humbling, and I absolutely love so many great people that I meet all the time at these conferences and events that I speak at. And I'm also we're going to be talking about this tonight with my guests, but I spoke a little bit about this on the show prior last year, but the first week in May, myself and my guest, who tonight is Gary Brown, we're both going to be speakers at the big Tombstone event that Dark Side Entertainment is putting on. I've been able to connect with Gary on Facebook and chat with him a little bit, learn about him, and again, very, very interesting story. So I wanted to bring him on. We're also in the second hour. We'll be talking a little bit about Tombstone. I've never been there, but I am so looking forward to going there, being able to investigate all these locations. I'm really kind of wondering, because I am such a strong empath that places like that just have so much residual energy in them anyway. Then you put the energy of all the people that are attending not only the event but the investigations as well. And, people understand how hard it is. And Gary Brown is actually sensitive as well, so we're going to kind of talk to him about all this as well tonight. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my guest tonight. So he's actually the owner and founder of Spirit Paranormal Equipment. And again, as I was talking about before, Gary's had his own paranormal experiences since he was a young child, and I believe it was first apparition he saw was when he was around 6 years old. And he's been led him into, investigating the paranormal. And at one point he's actually done all kinds of different little things in his bio that he sent me. Very interesting guy, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. But he did some customizing of cars. He liked to build things, into electronics, and all of a sudden he started creating this paranormal equipment and was actually really, really good at it. So he actually decided to, do a full career change, and he gave up his career that he had in law enforcement to start his own business. And so he's been creating paranormal equipment ever since. And I know that this is definitely a market that has been a very good one to get into in the early stages of the paranormal, because there are so many people that are starting out. They have no idea what to use. They're new teams. They've seen it on TV. They really don't understand any of the equipment, how it works. So they have to look for places where they can get some equipment, and Gary's business is one of those places. So we'll talk to him again about type of equipment that he uses, where he comes up with his ideas, how does it work, where you can find it to buy it, because a lot of us are now, a lot of us are trying to now update our technology of what we're using out in the field. So definitely it's going to be a great show. Anybody has any questions tonight for our guest? The call-in number is area code 607-349-0410. We're also in chat, so if you want to join in and say hi, we are always welcome to talk to you and take a question. Do that. Also, you can instant message me, or actually, I guess, private message me on Facebook. That's where I'm at right now. And if you have questions, you can either do it on my private page or on the Paranormal Connection video show page. So with that being said, we will go ahead and bring on our guest now. Gary, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, thank you so much, and welcome to Paranormal Connections. Great having you here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, I'm actually really excited to have you. I've been, very interested in a lot of the new paranormal equipment that is starting to really kind of come out, and people are really picking up on it and really kind of broadening their arsenal of equipment and investigative skills, by utilizing all this new technology. And I know that you have this business where you build all this stuff, but before we really get into that, why don't we kind of start where it all began, when you're really young, because as you are probably hearing, I've interviewed so many people over the years, and I noticed that a lot of people who, we all are born with, psychic abilities, and many of us, they stay very, very strong with us, and we just kind of learn to deal with them on our own over the years. For others, usually by the time they enter school, if it's not very strong, or they're under a lot of disbelief, or people telling them, this stuff doesn't exist, they'll kind of block it out and kind of block it. For you, I read your bio and you said that you saw the first apparition. Was it at 6? Was it?
Yeah, it was around 6 years of age when I first discovered anything. Actually, I thought it was an actual person, and I was in my grandparents' driveway playing or something in the yard, and I kept hearing one of these little plastic balls bouncing on the ground. I looked over, and there was a little girl, and she had said my name, so I started walking over towards her, and she was gone. And so that was my first experience, which, of course, at that age, I really didn't know what to think other than, I guess I was just seeing things. But as time passed on and I got older, then more things started happening. So I knew that there had to be some kind of connection there. I just didn't know exactly what.
Now, when you first started having your interaction or experiences with seeing things, did you ever go to, say, your parents or go to anybody that you knew to try to, find out what was going on, what you were seeing, like most kids do?
No, I didn't. I just kind of kept it to myself and never said anything. Really, I guess probably within the last, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years or so, I guess, is when I first started just kind of branching out and talking to some other people about it. And, it seems like really within the past 2 or 3 years, things have started to get worse, as far as the activity and stuff. More things are happening, and I'm seeing more and feeling more, and it's just, I'm just trying to really figure everything out. Kind of new.
Right. And well, for a lot of people, again, that saw things when they were children, they ended up kind of, for some having a block where then they now all of a sudden within the last 5 years, I've had a lot of people that have come to me since I mentor people with children, teens, and actually adults with psychic abilities, a lot of people were all of a sudden saying, oh my gosh, like something's wrong with me, I don't know what's going on, I'm starting to see things and hear things, all these different things, and not really remembering or really connecting it with anything from when they were younger. And then as they kind of, you talk to them, a lot of times they will, start to, like, remember things when they were younger, but again, they just kind of, just push it away as, okay, well, it happened, and, if it doesn't happen again, great, that's even better. But we went through this, like, shift. We've been going through this shift, and for so many, it was what I call activating, these abilities back in a lot of people, and especially people that were out investigating the paranormal. The more that they were interacting, the more that they were studying it, it seemed like, more things were coming to them, more abilities, more empathic abilities being recognized, more sensitives being recognized, all different kinds of abilities. It started to really, people started to kind of, I think, take notice. And I also think with the internet, being able to now have so many groups that do not only investigate, but they share their experiences, information, research, and everything with other people, it's really kind of starting to get out there for everybody. So they're able to kind of, say, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who experienced something like this. That was kind of like that for you as well. The more people you started meeting in the paranormal.
Yeah, it has been. Like I said, it's been a lot easier over the last few years. Of course, then again, like I said, it's gotten a lot stronger. Some of the things that's been happening, and of course, I guess maybe now I'm just more aware of some of the things that's going on.
Right.
But it's definitely a change, that's for sure.
Now, what kind of things have you experienced, investigating, and especially since you really kind of started becoming a little bit more aware of your own abilities?
Well, one of the biggest things, I think, on a lot of the investigations that I've been on, I tend to get touched a lot, and, and I hear things, and a lot lately, I mean, I've been seeing just all kinds of stuff. We went on an investigation New Year's Eve, and we'd gone into a room that they claimed to not have that much activity in, and of course, after about 5 minutes in the room, I looked down and there was something standing beside me, and of course, there was someone else in the room with me that also noticed it, and so it's kind of neat having someone else around that can confirm, hey, you're right, there's something standing there, and it's this and that, and it's different though. I mean, of course, like I said, over the past few years, it's gotten stronger. I mean, it happens all the time, and it's just trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking in chat, and actually we have Cece in chat, and she says, ask Gary, oh, sorry, we just got 50 more messages just flew past me. Ask Gary if he ever had a persistent entity that returned to bother him, and how did he deal with it, with the entity versus the spirit?
I really don't know. I really can't say that I've had anything like that happen. I mean, now I know that I've had, some of the same spirits or whatever reoccur, and on multiple occasions. Of course, especially at my house. I mean, there's several that lives at my house, and course, I think a lot of it may be due to some of the antiques and stuff that we've got. I mean, and we'll go out and get new stuff, because that's another side business that I do is buy and sell collectibles and antiques and stuff. And
right.
so who's to say? I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes we'll get stuff and then stuff will start happening, like new stuff. And,
What?
Then I'll start trying to do an investigation at my house. I don't know how many times I've investigated my house, but
Oh, my goodness.
it's a reoccurring thing. I mean, stuff happens on a daily basis, and, and a lot of times, especially I'll hear stuff. I mean, it's like they're right beside me, just talking in my ear and stuff, and sometimes it's aggravating.
Right. Now, are you just hearing, like whispers? Are you hearing full sentences? What are the spirits saying?
I'm hearing full sentences, and, and it's crazy because a lot of times there's no one here with me, and if they are, they're like 2 or 3 rooms away.
So even if they were unless they have psychic abilities where they as well can hear 99% of the time, you could hear with a bunch of people around and be able to very clearly know it's a different voice from the people who are in the room with you and hear that. So you're not very often going to, number one, have any witnesses to that other than yourself. And the other thing, too, is, something I picked up on with you is that, definitely investigating, you definitely, with all the communication that you're doing, especially with electronics, you attract a lot, and then you're also sensitive. With really not a whole lot of knowledge, like, of how to really control it or, what to do with it. You're kind of all, like, learning this on the fly along with everything else. So I get that. So, I think that's why a lot of times you'll feel that there are more spirits at your home than maybe previously or kind of coming and going. And Paranormal 101, is to never investigate, in your own home because as we know, the interaction only feeds it, makes it stronger. So, you definitely, I guess, for testing your equipment, where better than your own home, but then also for your own kind of, sanity, I really tell people that, the best thing to do is, get some help yourself, get the home cleared out, because a lot of times when, paranormal investigators get attachments or they have, spirits in their own homes, they can't get rid of them themselves because of the, the attachment that they have, the personal attachment that they have. So, bringing somebody else in, actually having them, cleanse the house and bless the house or whatever it is that, you want to do. And then kind of, having that as your place where you can, investigate and, not really investigate, but review your research and things like that on cases without, your own home having to be your own case study. But, for other people, they learn to live with it, and as long as it's nothing negative, they're completely okay with it. Have you experienced anything, of a negative nature over the years?
I have, but not in the home that I'm in now. I know previously back, it's probably been 9 or 10 years ago, I lived in a home, and there was some negative energy there, and there was some stuff happened that couldn't be explained, and of course, I didn't stay there long. It wasn't because I was scared, it was just because at the time, my wife, she had a problem with it, and it was just stuff that couldn't be explained. You have stuff damaged in the house, and doors off the hinges, and, just crazy stuff that you would think somebody would, got inside the home or something and tried to damage it. But So that wasn't the case. So yeah, there was some unexplained stuff that's happened that was negative in the past, but not currently. I mean, it's all pretty peaceful stuff is going on. Of course, I know one of the most recent spirits that I picked up on was a spirit of a little boy, probably about 12 years old, and I actually didn't know exactly what I was seeing because I thought it was my girlfriend's stepson sitting on an antique desk, and I actually was talking to this kid, thinking that it was him, and then it took me a second to pick up on, hey, wait a minute, this kid's like wearing stuff back from like the 1800s, and so once I don't know how, but once I picked up on this, it was like he knew because he hung out until I figured this out, and then he was gone.
Interesting. Well, we actually have a couple more questions in chat, and Caribbean Mama is asking what area you live at.
I live in Alabama.
Okay, all right. So because many places, like New Mexico and Arizona, different areas, have a very interesting background, just themselves of the area. So they were wondering what area you're from. But actually, there's paranormal activity it seems to be on the increase no matter where you go. I think you can go to any city, any state, and you can find some places with some very interesting histories and haunted tales. We have another question again in here from Cece, and it's kind of a three-part question. But she says, Carrie, first of all, are you able to turn off, so to speak, your abilities to communicate with spirit if you don't want to be bothered at the moment? That's the first one. We'll go ahead and take that
one. Actually, it's all kind of new, and I really don't know how to deal with it. And so I would have to say no. I mean, it just, if it happens, it happens. And it happens quite frequently. So
I think that's a very honest, actually, answer, because that is very, very common, especially when you're first starting to experience everything. That is one of the problems, and one of the things that people are always saying, oh, I wish it would just stop. Like the voices never, and they'll say, look, it's not like I'm hearing voices, like I'm crazy hearing voices, like I'm hearing voices and I'm seeing things, or I know it's someone around, things like that. And so, it can be very hard to control, and actually through meditation is actually your best way to learn to kind of protect and also control your abilities so that, you can kind of shut them down when you don't want to be bothered. A lot of times, if you just ask as well, and you just tell the spirits around you that, look, I just need my space, I need you guys to give me a break, they will do that. But it just really depends on what you're dealing with, because, some spirits, like, really, if they really need your help, they're really going to keep on until they get your attention and they get your help. And that actually takes us, I think, to one of the other questions that they had. She says, is there a time of day that it's more active for you, hearing the spirits talk to you? Is it stronger, like, in the day or the night?
I would say, I don't know, I'd have to say, well, it just depends. I mean, like, when I'm at home, I would say, midday or something is when I'm picking up the most activity. Mm-hmm. But it just really depends. I mean, when I'm at Walmart or something, I mean, I'm not picking up on anything, but,
Yeah, so when you go home, right?
Right. But I don't guess. I mean, there's a specific time. I guess it just depends on where I'm at.
Right.
Because when I'm at home, I mean, I can pick up on stuff all the time. It just depends. But honestly, I would say, just from my personal experiences at home, maybe around midday or so. But if I'm out, it just depends.
Mm-hmm. And the third part of the question was, have you ever been able to help a spirit with something?
Honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know if I've been able to or not. I know that, I hear a lot of stuff and see a lot of stuff, but I can't honestly say that I've actually helped any of them.
Has any of the spirits, come to you asking you for help or anything like that, or are they just kind of give you this random information?
No, it's just random information. I've never really had any of them ask for help or anything. I don't know why, but I'm just.
Well, I do. I mean, you're very new into the beginning of all this. So as you go on, as time goes on, and you pay more attention, or there's certain things that you can do to kind of hone in on your abilities and use them better and understand them better, things like that. You'll start to then be able to kind of understand. It'll make more sense. A lot of times they're messages that they want, given. But with you, I think that the reason you get a lot of random information is the whole thing with making the equipment, which is all about communication with the other side. And they're knowing that you want to communicate with them. So they are communicating with you. But the thing is, it's not just through your equipment. They're also, communicating with you, at your home or whenever they can kind of, get your attention. And I feel like it is usually like when you're kind of alone, when you're like not focused on a whole lot of other things going on. When you kind of have that idle time, that's like when they're trying to kind of creep in and interact with you. So I actually, as I said, I mentor people, dealing with psychic abilities. I mean, those parts are very, very simple, and I can help you, with those. And again, it's probably a good thing that you start to understand this and kind of get control of it because of the fact of how much, your new career is delving you into the whole communication with the other side. So you're really kind of opening up a door that you really didn't even understand. You were opening to this degree, to this degree. You thought, of course, you were, building equipment to interact with them, but not thinking that, instead they're just going to use you as a conduit.
Right.
Well, interesting. And so, what has been some of the equipment that you've actually made or that you use in your investigations?
Well, I build a little bit of everything, and when I started out, my main reason I guess I started out is I'd actually made some equipment myself years ago, and I used it for the paranormal, and when I started making the IR light attachments and stuff, I was actually using those for the same thing, but I was also using them at work, like to catch the bad guys. The equipment that they used to furnish us just wasn't good stuff as far as the night vision stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't, if somebody took off running from you into the woods, you just couldn't see. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to build something and use my own stuff. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, some of the main stuff that I've been carrying here lately, I've made these positive, negative, static energy pods. And I've had great luck with those. Wasn't really sure about them at first. I mean, that's with any of the equipment. I mean, I'll make stuff and I'll try it out, and it works and it does what it's supposed to. But I've never really had one piece of equipment that I could call my favorite piece of equipment. People have asked me multiple times, and I never really had anything that I could just single out until actually this past New Year's Eve.
Really?
And we had investigated the old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee.
Yeah, I've heard about that place.
I had made one that day and carried it with me. And we were doing an overnight investigation, and I got some crazy evidence using that. And I'll use it from now on. I don't care if I've got anything. Just give me that and a digital recorder, and I'm good. But I would have to say that would probably be my favorite piece of equipment. But I build a little bit of everything. I mean, the REM pods and the light attachments and the camera conversions and, I mean, you name it, I can build it. Of course, if you've looked at the Spirit Paranormal page, I've got a picture of a skull that I've made, and it's a lot of people ask about it. I carry it around with me to some of these events. It's an actual piece of equipment. A lot of people just think that it's just some kind of prop or something, but it is a working piece of equipment. And it's a little weird. It's different. No one else has got it. And I just thought that it would be something cool to put together and kind of get a reaction from people.
So what exactly does this piece of equipment do?
I've got it set up on a tripod, and it's basically a mannequin head. And it's got a motion sensor. Once it detects motion, the eyes illuminate red. And then it also has a K2 meter that's built into the mouth. So when your K2 meter goes off, the mouth lights up. Then I've also got a microphone in each ear, and then I've got a cable that plugs into your digital recorder, and you can do your EVP session, and then you've got two microphones built into it, and you just set it off somewhere and start it on, and then you can go investigate wherever you want to, and then come back and then review your evidence and stuff. It's pretty neat. I have a lot of fun with it.
That is very interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't seen anything like that. I mean, we have seen some of the teddy bears that are out there.
And I've made those too. I mean, of course, I like.
Those are very simple, though, ones, right?
Well, it just depends. I got contacted by one of the guys from Deep South Paranormal, Kevin Betzer, and me and him are good friends, and he wanted one, and he was just wanting one with a EMF detector in it. And I told him, I said, Kevin, I said, let's do something different. Let's put a little bit more stuff in it. And so he was like, heck, you're doing it. Do whatever you want to. So I ended up fixing him one that's got the EMF detector in it. Plus, we've also put motion in it. So when it detects motion, the eyes light up and the nose glows. So it's a little different, but I mean, I can custom make anything. So, I mean, if somebody's interested in something, then they can just contact me, and then we can go from there. Because I'm pretty open on the whatever it is. somebody wants something just out of their head instead of mine, then I can put it on paper and then we can build it.
That's very interesting, and I might even actually utilize you myself, and then maybe I'll have to figure out what I need. We got all kinds of equipment, but I have to figure out something with you, and then I'll actually take it out and use it. Maybe we'll do it. We'll debut it at Tombstone, and we'll use it on an investigation, and we'll videotape it, and we'll come back on the show and talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, we can do that.
That would be really interesting. Okay, well, we'll talk some more about that. But I do know that there are a lot of people that listen to the show that do either have their own teams or are part of a team, or are just very interested in them, themselves in the paranormal and doing some investigating. So, it's definitely, I would, love to have people, come your way. Now, for equipment and stuff like that, what seems to be, what most people are requesting or using in the field right now?
Well, for me, I guess I would have to say, of course, everybody's always into the lights. So out of everything, I guess, that I build, unless it's just something off the wall that I build for someone, I would have to say the lights and probably the REM pods or the little ESP pods that I'm making. Those seem to be the top items right now that I'm.
And what are those doing? The ESP pods, for people who don't know.
Well, that's the positive, negative pods that I make, and that's the ones that I use all the time now. Ever since my last experience. But they detect the positive and negative energy, and had great results with them. And I've sold quite a few of those, and everybody that's got them, they love them.
Interesting. And well, in your opinion, because I would think that especially right now, the paranormal field has become very, very competitive. Everybody wanting to get the best evidence, to put out there and show the world. So everybody is very, very interested in, the whole electronics and new technology. So a lot of people are checking this stuff out. Do you find that a lot more people are actually, since you offer customized equipment, that they're leaning more towards getting their own custom equipment? Is something that not everybody else is using to try to gain evidence?
Some people are. Of course, I know that the paranormal field is different as far as sales go, because I've noticed over the past few years, the summer months are kind of slow, which I would think that they would be busier because more people would be getting out. But
right.
I found that as far as sales go, the winter months are busier.
Really?
Which has been that way for at least the last 3 years. And I can't figure that one out, but
that is kind of interesting, because I would think the same way that you're thinking. I think that's pretty logical thinking, that you have the good weather, in the summertime. More people are out, people are going to events, people are traveling, they're, finding all these places to go investigate where you're not going to be freezing to death like you are in the wintertime in some of these locations. Right. But, and I do know that there seems to be a lot of paranormal equipment that gets sold for some reason, usually like September, October, November, for some, and usually around, obviously Halloween, for some reason they want to combine that with with the paranormal for some reason. But I would think that the winter times you probably wouldn't be buying their equipment. Maybe they're, traveling a lot during the summertime and they just don't have the money, so they have more money in the wintertime, so that they save up and buy over the winter and hoard it all till the summertime and then go use it.
That could be it.
Who knows? I mean, I know some diehard investigators that it makes no difference. Rain, snow, hail. If there's an investigation that needs, is out there to be done, they're going to go and do it. Me, I don't do so good in the cold. I love the spring and the summer, months. I'll investigate all over California and want to go everywhere. But come the winter months, I can barely take the winter in California, so I'd be in bad shape if I went to Detroit or something like that, or New York.
Well, yeah, I would too, because the last investigation that we went on, we were indoors, but I was wearing 2 jackets and gloves, and was still freezing. So
yeah, that was that the one for New Year's at the Pittsburgh Hospital? Yeah,
and they have a little bit of heat going through there, but it's not much, and but it's an awesome place to investigate, though, if anybody ever gets a chance to go.
Well, let's actually talk about that in an investigation that you get out there, because I've actually heard about that place many, many times. I mean, I have a lot of people that, live out in those areas, and they're always talking about, all of these facilities and things that you can go and investigate. And, in California, we have a lot of, haunted locations, because, the gold mines and, all those kind of things. But we really don't, other than, I think, around here, maybe Preston Castles, which was the reformatory boys' school. That's probably the closest thing, in Northern California that we have. And then, probably Linda Vista Hospital in Los Angeles before they shut that down. But, so going to that place, I mean, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I hear a lot of skeptics saying, we went there and we didn't experience anything and it was a waste of time. And then I hear all these other teams and all these other people that go on, to these events that they have there, and they say that it's out of control, the amount of activity that they got. So, I mean, for you, I guess it was probably the latter of the two that you did get a lot of stuff opposed to not.
Right. It was pretty active. There was multiple things that happened that night, and what really turned me on to the ESP pods that I've got, the one room that we went in that they weren't supposed to have anything going on, they've never really got any kind of evidence out of the room. Some of the people that were in the hospital when they died, it was, I guess, in the mental ward or whatever, they left their belongings. So there was actually some of these people's belongings still there, clothing and stuff hanging in the closets and stuff like that. And so when we walked into this room, I started feeling something. So I turned on one of the pods, set it in the middle of the floor, and my girlfriend had walked over to the closet. So we started doing an EVP session, and she was talking about, how pretty the clothing was in the closet, and then the pod started going off. And so then it stopped. And then when she started talking about stuff in the closet again, she touched the jacket that was hanging in the closet. When she touched the jacket, the pod started going off. So she tried touching some of the other clothing that was hanging up in the closet. Nothing. But anytime she talked about that one jacket, and anytime she touched that jacket, it would go off. And this went on for 10 minutes. And it blew my mind because we tried everything possible to debunk what was going on, because, yeah, of course you want your equipment to work and work properly, but it's a little different when you make the stuff.
Right.
I'm sitting there trying to figure out, okay, it makes sense that it's working, but I want to see, if it's just a malfunction or something, and it wasn't. And so we had great results with it in that room, as well as some of the other places in the hospital. And crazy activity, though. I mean, I started picking up on a smell of flowers from a funeral home.
Interesting.
Going through the hallway. And so I just stopped. And everybody was like, "What's going on?" And I said, I'm smelling flowers or something like from a funeral home. But when you walk to the next door, it stopped. It was like you'd take 3 or 4 steps and then it would stop, and then you could smell it again. And then some other people started smelling it, and they were like, "This is crazy," And I mean, we were really getting a lot of good results as far as the activity and stuff in the hospital. Of course, it makes it a lot better when there's not that many people there.
Right.
Because I know a lot of these places, they're wanting to get 50 or 100 people in there at one time. And,
right.
I mean, you're going to contaminate all your evidence. Somebody's going to say something, and they're going to mess stuff up. And, I mean, there was only, I think in the whole hospital, there was probably only 12 of us. And everybody wanted to go somewhere different. So there's just, 2 or 3 of us here and 2 or 3 of us there. So
right.
It made it a lot better.
Right. And then you spread out. So, like, the chances of you
right.
blending in or picking up somebody else talking in another room is pretty big, if anything. And, I mean, it's very interesting that you say that, because I find that, too. When you get a whole lot of people in there, people expect spirits to, act out like, they're circus animals or something. And
right.
when everybody shows up, they're just supposed to start to perform. And it absolutely doesn't work that way. And they'll get overwhelmed as well, because many of them there are, either don't know they've, passed away, or they're stuck there and they don't know, how to cross over. Some have, messages they want to give. There's just so many different facets to it that, it's like to just have people go in there, to have it be kind of like a circus it doesn't seem to go over really well. But when you have small groups of people, and the intent of all those, small groups of people is just, completely peaceful and to communicate with them. For me, I would say, 9 out of 10 times they will communicate with you. And
right.
I mean, I really don't have a hard time. I mean, if there's something actually there, I usually don't have a hard time, getting them to communicate with me. And for the most part, my EVP recorder and, cameras are the 2 best friends, but there is just so much more equipment out there now. And so anything that you can get that can kind of back up or validate what the other types of validations that you're getting for the evidence is really, really important. So I think that, for this year especially, I feel like there's going to be, an upswing in people trying out all the new paranormal equipment and wanting to kind of upgrade, because a lot of people still have been investigating for many, many years before all the new technology came out. I see a lot of people who are very against any kind of app technology or this new technology, period, because they're so stuck in the old technology. So, what is your thoughts on any of these apps that they have out there?
I've never, to be honest with you, I just got a touch screen phone. Don't laugh.
No, don't laugh.
So I haven't which I really haven't figured out how to use it, so I'm not app-friendly myself. But I know a few people that use some of the apps that are out there, and, I mean, they've picked up some pretty good stuff with them. I don't know if I can honestly say that I'm trusting them 100% since I haven't really messed with them myself.
Right.
But I know from a couple of them that are out there that I've been around and been a witness to them in use, and they work. Of course, then you've got the issue with all the apps and stuff on your cell phone and causing the battery drain anyway.
Right.
I would much rather put a 9-volt battery in something and let it go and not have to rely on my cell phone. So, but that's just me. I mean, I know a lot of people, are into the apps and stuff like that, but since I build equipment, then I'm kind of partial to my 9-volt batteries and stuff.
Right. And again, I think, that it's still, I think probably the apps and the building of the smartphones and using a lot of the same equipment that they would use and a lot of the equipment that we use in the field, but they're just putting all these transistors and all these things, into just cell phones to be used, that way. And then you get these apps. Now, for me, I really kind of held back on the whole cell phone, the smartphone for a long time, only because I have such a hard time with electronics and absorbing energy anyway. Like, I drain the battery. Like, I can't find a battery. I don't care how great of a phone it is and how long of a life of the battery has. It can say it's got, 8 hours of battery. I will get it, and after 30 minutes, an hour, it'll be drained. And to the point that my hands start getting these, like, it's crazy, but it's almost like a stigmata. I get these, like, in the palms of my hands, I get these holes that, like, lift and then they open up, and they'll be raw for a couple weeks, and then they'll go away. And it's usually either, like, when I don't have a lot of electronics or I'm doing a lot of work on my laptop. Like, my fingers will, like, and my hands will literally, like, I can feel them, like, tingling and getting hot from typing and being on my laptop. So different things. So I really kind of try to stay away from a lot of, like, electronics or too much of it because, it's very draining on the equipment as well as on me. But I do like the idea of a lot of the equipment that is out there, especially, the REM pods and all those things. I mean, there's a lot of interesting equipment that's being made, and I think that what I like about it is that it's actually being, made by people out in the field who are investigating, so it's not like just somebody saying, well, this is somewhere I can maybe create something. They're actually out there investigating and saying, oh yes, this works good in this circumstance, and this works good in this circumstance, and this is how we can make it better because you're looking at it as an investigator. I mean, I'm sure for you, being in law enforcement now, when you got out of law enforcement, how long have you been in law enforcement before you did your career change?
A little over 20 years.
Wow. That's a big career change.
Yeah, well, it was, I don't know, it's just, it was very stressful, and, I just didn't have really time to do anything. Of course, I was driving about 2 hours one way to work.
Oh, wow.
So, driving 2 hours one way to work, working at least 12 hours, and then praying that I didn't have to stay over for anything so I could go home.
Right.
Of course, sometimes that was interrupted. I mean, there's been days that I just had to stay at work for a couple days, and so yeah, it was a much needed break. And I don't know. Again, I don't know why I chose to do this, but it's something that I love to do, and I'm always fooled with electronics and stuff, and I just started out trying to make equipment that was mainly affordable, because I know myself, I could never go out and purchase some of the stuff that was out on the market because of the prices.
Oh, exactly.
So I figured that I would make stuff, it's the best quality that I could make it, and sell it for as little as I could. And that's what I've done. I mean, I'm not getting rich off the stuff I'm selling by no means.
Right.
And I've even been questioned by some people. They're like, you're spending X amount of dollars, I know, to make this piece of equipment, and you're selling it for this amount. You need to raise your prices. And I probably should, but I just keep them where they're at. I mean, I know the times changed and the economy's changed, but I try to make stuff affordable. That way, someone that's just getting started or whatever, or they need an extra piece of equipment, it's not going to take a month's worth of paychecks for them to pay for it.
Oh, I so agree, because, I mean, I even know, and I've been investigating in the public eye for the last 15 years, and even with that, I noticed that, the amount of money that you put in to equipment is crazy. And then, most paranormal teams, or at least usually the really good ones out there, they don't charge for anything for their services. So, people don't understand, and I think that there are a lot of people that this is like a hobby to them, or they see it on TV and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool, we should, do this. I don't think at the beginning they really have any idea on the cost that it takes to, run a group and do investigations and, get out and investigate, well, whatever it is that, you bring on clients, whatever it is that you're going to be doing in the field, it's a lot. And people I don't think understand, like, the amount, like, for us, we will, pretty much travel anywhere in California for somebody who needs help. So, we have a kind of a broad area that we cover, but that's all out of our own pocket. So gas, accommodations if we have to go too far out, all of that goes out of our own pocket. And you're not talking, also, just like your equipment, a good camera, a good video camera, with night vision, will cost you a good little amount of money. So by the time that you add everything up, that just like a basic kit, you can definitely have already spent a couple $100 easily. So I think that, it's a great thing that you're actually out there doing this, because I've actually seen a lot of knockoffs of these little teddy bear things.
Right.
And it kind of bothers me because, you'll see somebody that comes up with a really good idea or something, and, then you'll get, 20 other people that will go and try to make it a little bit cheaper and that looks similar but doesn't do exactly the same, or, and cut a lot of corners, and then, try to put it out there, to take away the sales of somebody who else, came up with it and everything. But I started noticing that there was a lot of people that were like, oh, this is an interesting concept and idea, and they really started, I think, becoming popular, because I was seeing all of a sudden there were multiple sites that are known to sell paranormal equipment, and they were all, selling and stocking these things. So it is interesting, like I said, the amount of equipment that's coming out. The people and investigators are really starting to kind of latch onto and say, oh, well, maybe this is a little better to have, this along with the other equipment. And, again, it's affordable. And one of the questions I did see in chat from Catherine, because she's going to actually be coming to the Tombstone event that we will both be speaking at this year, and she was asking, are you going to be bringing any of your equipment that will be for sale to the event?
I will be. I don't know as far as quantity-wise, but I know I will be bringing some. And, of course, if, I'm going to try to bring several of each, but depending on how much I can carry.
Right.
But if there's anything that, someone's looking for or whatever, I can take orders on it and ship it.
Or make the delivery there in Tombstone if they're going to be at it. I know that Catherine and I actually have one of my lead investigators of our PPRS branch in Australia. He's coming out here for the Tombstone event as well, and I know he's looking for some equipment. So, definitely for anybody who's, looking for some equipment, or you are going to be going to the Tombstone event, so you can make sure that, if you want to get something and you'd like to, maybe get it there at Tombstone, be able to use it on an investigation while we're out there, something like that. Again, make sure to contact him, put in a prior, pre-order, and put it together and deliver to you there. I think it'll be, very, very interesting. And I see that we're getting, to the top of the second hour. And, we're talking about Tombstone. Now, I'm not sure if Carol is going to be calling in or not, but Carol Malone, also known as Run and Night, is the owner of Dark Side Entertainment. And she actually puts on events all over the place. They actually has some pretty amazing events that she put on. I know Sloth Furnace is coming up, I think, next month. And then ours, of course, Tombstone in May. What an event that's going to be, right?
Right. Sure is.
Now, have you been there before yourself?
Tombstone, no.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I'm telling you, I've heard so much about it, and I've done, I've looked at some of the places that Carol, put up that, we're going to be investigating. Wow, it just seems like such a very interesting place. And I've heard about it for many, many years and always wanted to go there, just never had the opportunity to. So to be able to go and do this kind of event where we're actually going to have access to the full town, which is we're going to have access to some places that nobody's ever had access to in the past. So it's going to be pretty interesting. We've got a lot of well-known people in the paranormal that are going to be attending these along with us. Now, you're going to be a speaker. What are you going to be talking about at the convention?
You would put me on the spot. No, I don't know right yet. I'm in the process of working on something right now for Sloths next month. And
okay, that's right, because you are doing Sloths as well, correct?
Right. So, if someone needs something and they're going to get the Sloths event, if they can contact me, I can deliver it there or I can ship it to them, just whichever. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about the Tombstone event as far as laying something out for there. I think that Carol was wanting me to, at the Sloths event, to just kind of speak about the equipment and some experiences and some other stuff. So that should be a lot of fun. Of course,
yeah.
So many things, at Tombstone that you could possibly talk about. I mean, it's just an awesome place. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, I can't wait. Of all the places that I have set up for this year so far, I am definitely looking forward to Tombstone. Again, the history of it is just so incredible. and I can just imagine, the energy at the place. As I said, I do know people who live out in the area. They've been there multiple times, taking pictures, and it's always interesting to hear people's, stories of, what they picked up or how they felt when they were there, what the energy was like, because it's always something they'll say, the energy is really interesting, it's really strong, and people pick up things and see things, pass by them, little shadow figures, things like that they can't understand. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. In fact, we've got, the whole weekend to be able to work with this. I think it's going to be definitely something that, not too many people have, the opportunity to do. And actually, the ticket prices were incredibly fair prices. I was really surprised because I've done a lot of events that, wow, the prices are crazy. I mean, you can't, by the time you get your ticket, you barely have any money to even be able to get a plane ticket out there.
Oh, that's true.
And I noticed that, this year Carol is, in her events, has created a lot of packages where it's a full weekend event, and you're getting your room, and you're getting, I think, breakfast the days that you're there, things like that, along with the event and the private investigations, because we have all kinds of investigations going on, I know, through that weekend that we're all going to be involved in, as well as, I'm going to be doing my show live from there as well, so it'll be definitely an interesting time for sure. Now, what about Sloss Furnace? Have you ever been there? Because I originally was going to speak at Sloss Furnace, but I had a prior commitment, so I'm not going to be able to do that one. But, again, great location, very, very, haunted history, and it seems like a great place to have an event. Have you been there in the past?
Oh, yeah. I've been there multiple times, and it is an awesome place to investigate, day or night. And a lot of people may not know, but, if you're in the area during their business hours, you can go on a self-guided tour yourself for free.
Really?
And they don't give you any problems. I've walked in with camera and voice recorder and everything else and just kind of did my own thing, which, I picked up on a lot of stuff there. And the tunnel at Sloss Furnace is great. Every time I go, there's something always there that's pulled me. On the other end of the tunnel, there's some kind of machinery or something that's down there. And
really,
I guess you could get by it. Yeah, I guess if you climbed over it or something, but I didn't want to do that.
Right.
During the business hours, but I'm all for it next month.
Right. So the Sloss Furnace is actually an up and running business, correct? So
right.
During the week it's up and running. So this is just something that they allow, I guess, events to go on there, things like that. But, I really love to hear, though, that, they do, if you just happen to be in the area or be a local or be, a visitor passing through, but if you did go and ask that you could go and walk around and check it out, because there are so many places. I will tell you, it got so bad that I stopped investigating businesses, because for so many years we would get all kinds of businesses that, were wanting our help. They were, having activity in their businesses and things, and it was scaring employees and patrons and things like that. So they wanted to find out what it was and to get it out and stopped. But we've seen a big change in businesses now, and now businesses are still calling paranormal teams to get validation that there's something going on there. But it's not to help the spirits or to clear out the activity. It's to then make it the next money maker for them. And we're seeing this, trend happen all over the place. And one minute, you think the place is just a normal, abandoned building that has been in your area for a long time, and the next thing you know, everybody's claiming that it's, a paranormal hotspot, and then some places, charge investigators, in groups up to $1,000 to investigate. And to me, it just seems crazy. Like, who has that kind of money to go and investigate things like this?
That's true.
So it's interesting that, the people at Sloss Furnace, I really have to, salute them in letting people know that, yes, there is, this stuff does go on. We do events here. We are a business, that is a running business. But, if you are, interested and you're respectful of, coming and just checking it out and not doing anything you shouldn't be, then, they open their doors. The only thing that bothers me with that is that it always seems like there's always that team or that person that, will, there'll be a business that is, really open like that to let you, be able to come in and investigate, and somebody will go in and screw it up. They'll do something that they're not supposed to, and then it'll mess up for everybody. But it sounds like a great location. Now, how many times have you been there to investigate there?
I guess I've probably been there about 10 or 12 times, I guess.
Oh, so you've really been there quite often.
Yeah, it's a good spot. It's not that far from me. I'm probably about a little over an hour or so away, I guess. So It's pretty close.
Well, what attracted you, to go to investigate that location of all the locations around you?
Just, I don't know, I guess just the history and stuff. And, of course, when I was there, I picked up on a lot of stuff while I was there. And actually, I guess it was probably the second or third time I was there, I picked up on something in the tunnel. And it blew my mind because it was like I saw a full-body apparition in the tunnel, and as soon as I looked up, it was like we made eye contact, and then they took like 3 steps, and then they were gone. And anytime I go in that tunnel there, I'm always feeling something like in the back of the tunnel past the equipment that's down there. But I've never been back there because of the equipment. And I'm so wanting to go back there. I just want to go back there and just sit. Just leave me alone. Just let me sit there. And, of course, I think that may happen this next month. I know I was talking to Selena the other night, and I think something like that may go on. So might have an opportunity to do something like that when we're there. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like it. And, definitely will, again, hey, we'll have you back on the show in May after we do the Tombstone event. And we can talk about, the Sloss Furnace event too, because, again, seeing so many events happen there, and I've always, heard really interesting things that come out of there. I mean, so many people now are, videotaping, their investigations, and then from there they're posting them on YouTube or, different social media platforms. And just seems like there's really some interesting stuff. Now, when you went to Sloss Furnace, has there been anything that's been, like, really memorable to you or that really stood out to you in all the times you've gone there?
Mainly just a full-body apparition and just seeing and feeling stuff that's there. Not really picked up on a lot of stuff in some of the other areas of the place. Like I said, the hot spot for me is in the tunnel. And, of course, I mean, there's so many places to go at that location. I mean, there's just little buildings and just rooms and stuff in the warehouse. I mean, there's just multiple places to go investigate. I mean, it's going to be a blast. to be there for a couple days to just sit down and get the equipment set up and just do a 2-day investigation. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be super interesting. It'll be interesting to see, what your investigation, what kind of evidence you guys get. Now, what kind of equipment are you going to be taking to Sloth's Furnace and then also to the Tombstone event? What kind of equipment will you be using actually in the investigation?
Really, myself, I make a lot of stuff and a lot of people laugh, but I only carry a few things. My big thing is, you got to have my digital recorder, and I'll usually take the skull thing that I've got to a lot of locations, and of course I will have my ESP pod with me for sure. I'll have quite a few of those, just setting them out in different spots. But
right.
That's really all I carry with me. That, and I'll have a camera, but I have carried some of the REM pods and stuff that I make in the past. But the thing with those, I don't like anything with sound, and a lot of people do. And the REM pods and stuff that I make, of course, they have the sound to them, but now the ESP pods don't. And I don't know. I like quiet, trying to pick up on stuff and not having any kind of interference. And I know just having the
cables and everything, unless you're going to do all of that so that you can have somebody like at your base camp, watching all of the other monitors to see if there's anything going on. Do you really want, to have to do that? I'm the same way. We kind of just take it by room, where I feel like, there's activity or there's, we've been told that a lot of activity happens in these certain rooms. We'll go in there, but we just kind of take it one by one and see what we can get, and we just make a full sweep of the house. Because it's just, for me, it's too much, going on. You're trying to have one person check in, watch all the screens, because a lot of times people miss a lot. I know even in investigations that I've done, we haven't caught things, and then we, went back over the video later on and caught things that we never even saw originally, or nobody saw. So it's always very, very interesting. So, I'm kind of like the old school way, too. It's just kind of go one by one through the house and so you make your way all the way through it and then go back and analyze all of your evidence.
Right.
Now, with your EVPs, I know there's, many people do them in many ways. Some people will, leave their recorder going on from the time that they, come in. Some people will, record and then stop, say what time it is, information, where they're at, things like that. Other people, and myself included, I will ask the question and then wait, and then a lot of times we'll just play it back after that to listen. Because, so many times when, spirits answer you, it's not like, you're going to ask the question and it's going to answer you 15 minutes from now. Normally if you ask a question, it answers. If it's going to answer, it's going to answer you pretty quickly. And so for me, it kind of helps me to note if I hear anything, right away if I'm reviewing the EVPs as I'm doing them. Now, for you, what kind of techniques do you use?
Usually, I'll leave the recorder running while I'm in the room after I'm asking the questions, and then when I leave that particular location before I move on to the next, I'll stop it and then pick up in a different file or something on the next room. And then after everything's done, which I know it's probably harder to do that way, but that's just the way I've always done it.
Yeah.
then go back and review everything, which I've still got stuff probably from 2 years ago that I haven't finished reviewing. It's just a lot of times, you know, we'll go to all these different locations, and of course, back a couple of years ago, I was taking multiple cameras and changed out memory cards and then uploading stuff to the computer, and I've still got video that I haven't reviewed yet, which I know that's bad, but I probably got...
It does happen that way. I mean, especially when you're there investigating for, you know, multiple hours on end. You know, because, again, people see these, you know, shows that are supposedly, you know, reality paranormal shows, and, you know, they're doing a full investigation and review all in, you know, 45 minutes or an hour. So, you know, and to be, you know, realistic, is nowhere near the time that a full investigation, you know, takes. It takes hours, and you're there for a very long time, and sometimes you're there all night, and you get no sleep, and you don't get it really any, you know, you get some evidence, but nothing that is just, you know, so out there, you know, saying, yes, this is evidence that, you know, you can put it out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. First of all, when we do our investigations, we don't put any of our like evidence or anything like that out on the internet. We, you know, for a long time I thought about it because we were going to, you know, be videotaping all of our investigations and putting them up on YouTube and things. And then I kind of thought, you know, like, what's the point? There's so much negativity right now in the paranormal field that there's, you know, so much, you know, backstabbing. People are friends one minute, the next minute they're enemies. One minute, you know, they're their biggest supporters. The next minute, you know, they're creating the most chaotic, you know, crazy, you know, days of our lives scenarios that I've ever seen in my life. It's crazy. Now, one thing is, like, with you being a police officer, I would expect that, you know, kind of the same thing as being a police officer, the investigation process that you do, like on crimes, things like that, is pretty much the same kind of things that you would do when you're investigating the accounts of paranormal activity, right? If you get, like, a client.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much the same way, I would say. I mean,
kind of collecting evidence and listening to people's accounts and trying to connect the dots and make a scenario that sounds plausible and backed up with evidence.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing if you look at it.
Now, do you guys do a lot of private clients, or do you do, like, a lot of locations?
We have in the past done a lot of private places, residences, and small businesses and stuff. Of course, here lately, we just kind of slacked off and just kind of been taking it easy, I guess. I know I've kind of been away from Facebook and all the social medias and stuff for the last probably 3 months or so. Just kind of monitoring things, just kind of taking a break from everything and trying to get this year started off and see if I can come up with some new and different things and go from there. But,
well, talking about... Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm trying to get everything picked back up and try to get back out and do some more.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, and I think there's a lot more people that were skeptics at first, and now they're not. So you've got those people that's interested in it as well. So
experiences, and we all know that, you know, especially as investigators or people that have had, you know, lived with paranormal activity, there are always certain things that happen in your life that really, truly, stick out. And I'll tell you, there are certain, things that, of course, for a person to go through an experience like that, they know that they're not crazy, and they're like, okay, I know I just experienced this, so wow, this stuff really must be crazy. It must be real. And sometimes it really takes that personal experience before they'll really start to change their mind. But when they do, or when they experience it, I love it, because they'll talk to me beforehand and tell me all the reasons why it can't be real. And they're just going there just to basically, prove to everybody that it's not real. And then they have these, crazy personal experiences of being touched, or get EVPs themselves or pictures, and it just kind of blows their mind. So I'll always love those experiences.
Yeah, it's great, and that happened as well. One of the skeptics, something actually happened to them. They got touched, and then after they got touched, then they started feeling like numbness and stuff in their hand where they got touched, and that was pretty good. It went over pretty well. Because after that particular moment, then, they were like, okay, I believe everything that I'm seeing here. So, there's a lot of people out there that's not going to believe, but, they just have to get out and go to some of these locations and see for themselves.
So where would you say, like, your top 5 locations that you investigated have been?
Oh, I really don't know. I guess probably Phosphorus, the old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and just a few. Actually, there's a cemetery that's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, that's off the strip, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's pretty active at all times. I was there, I guess, probably a couple of years ago, and had picked up on some stuff out there, and started doing an EVP session, and was driving back in the car, going back to the hotel. We were trying to review our evidence and stuff, and I guess they liked me because you could hear my name being called multiple times. And so that place is pretty active, and I guess some of the private residences and stuff I've done in the past, but that's probably about the top 5 places, I guess.
Now, we're in a lot of teams that have said that, over the last 5 years that they've started to notice that they were getting more, like, negative, more violent, angrier activity being reported. Have you found that to be true as well?
Personally, I haven't. I guess really because I haven't really been to that many locations recently. Because I've just kind of been focusing on, like, building stuff and just pretty much taking care of my other businesses and stuff that I've got. And I really haven't had the time to go out and investigate like I used to. But over, the past little bit, I mean, the places that I've been, I've never really encountered any of the negative stuff like some of the people are claiming to. Of course, I'm sure it'll happen. And if it does, it does. I'll deal with it accordingly.
Well, when you guys are going out investigating, is there, like, any special type of protection that you do, or how do you protect yourself when you're out about to go and take on any kind of a case like that?
Really nothing. And I know that sounds stupid, but I figured that to go to some of these places that I don't know. I don't ever think about it. You know, I just go and do my thing and then deal with it. Of course, I know in the past that I think that something has called me home from a location, you know, that I've been to, and it wasn't nice. I had some trouble with it, but I don't know what happened. I guess it decided to leave on its own.
Well, not always do they leave. Sometimes, you know, you'll get something that, you know, can be kind of nasty, but it can still be a human spirit. That, you know, if the thing is with a lot of spirits is that if they were nasty, you know, in life and they haven't crossed over, you know, they'll still be nasty in death. And unfortunately, a lot of times, you know, these kind of nasty human spirits get, you know, misconstrued as or called, you know, demonic or any of these kind of things. But, you know, they can be very violent and very nasty, you know, as well, you know, pushing people and throwing things and all different kinds of stuff, you know. And I think that part of it probably plays in, you know, you being, you know, having a background as a police officer for so long. You know, you really don't have like that fear, you know, because you haven't, in the paranormal, you haven't really encountered anything like really bad. And unfortunately, you know, most of us, that's kind of how we learn is by trial and error. Unfortunately, we don't really want to do that because, you know, a lot of times things will, you know, follow us home and they won't leave. Or they will stick around and, you know, the thing is on the other side, there is no time. So just because they're not around for a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 15 years, does not mean that they won't show up at a later time. You know, and they sometimes just wait until things for you are, you know, very bad, or you feel, you know, very depressed, or, you know, things like that when people's, you know, lives are kind of going out of spiral or they just don't feel in control. You know, for you, definitely, you know, with you being sensitive and having abilities that have been activated, you know, I would definitely, you know, say that you should, you know, start kind of trying to learn more about your abilities and how to not only control them, but how to protect yourself, especially if you're going to be working in the lineup as an investigator or, you know, building things to communicate with the other side. And, you know, that's just because you really don't want to kind of like go from being the investigator to the client. And I see it happen so often because, you know, people get, you know, I'm sure just like with investigators, you know, or with police officers, if they get, you know, too relaxed and thinking that, you know, nothing's ever going to happen, that's usually when something happens, you know, so when they let their guard down. So, you know, for you doing the field of work that you're doing now, you know, it's probably a good idea for you to learn to do some very simple, you know, protection techniques and things like that, and learn to make them, you know, kind of part of your technique of just your everyday life, not even, you know, just when you're investigating. Because, you know, being a sensitive, the thing is that psychic abilities, once they're activated, you know, from what I've been told from the other side, is that, you know, we have a glow to us. And the spirit world knows by the strength of the glow. The brighter the glow, the stronger our abilities are. The thing is that although they may see a bright, you know, glow, that person may be a sensitive. So maybe they just sense when spirits are around, but they don't hear them and they don't see them. And or maybe you can hear them, but you can't see them, and you know, you don't sense them. Or again, you know, you may see them, but you don't hear them or anything else. So there's so many variables of, you know, different abilities that people have. If they're very empathic, sometimes they'll pick up the emotions of the spirit. So if the the spirit is angry or very sad, or different things that have happened. You may pick up on them. There's so many different things. So, it's kind of hard to be in this field, and especially when your abilities are, activated and that you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants. I think that, so many of us, like myself, who have had abilities their whole life, and we've had to experience some of these really bad negative attachments and stuff by getting into this field. I think now that we have the knowledge, we try to share that so that, other investigators in the field, stay safe as well and don't have to go through, through the things that we've had to experience. And especially for people that are just newly coming into their psychic abilities as an adult, because just as it is very confusing for a child, it's also very, very confusing for adults, because it just kind of comes out of nowhere all of a sudden. You're like, whoa, okay, now what I'm supposed to do with this? And, so again, it's kind of a personal journey. Now, where do you see 2015 taking you this year? I mean, are you looking, more of doing more investigating or focusing more on your business of your equipment, or what's it look like for you?
Well, I hope, as far as the events and stuff that are planned, this year's looking pretty promising. And I know this past year I got invited to a lot of events that I just wasn't able to attend. I'm going to try to do a lot more of the events and some investigations, and hopefully try to get some more stuff going with this equipment. Hopefully things will take off. It's been a slow go. Like I said, I'm definitely not getting rich at doing it. And it's just me. I don't have 10 people working for me, and I don't have $200,000 pieces of machinery making the stuff. So, when someone wants something made or whatever, anything that I make, it's definitely got a lot of time involved. And it's all handmade and done one piece at a time. So it's kind of like the Rolex of ghost hunting equipment, I guess.
But again, I think that that's kind of, good. I think that it's great that we don't just all have to have the generic equipment. That, even if, say, you're not creating, a piece of equipment, that it's nice that if somebody has an idea for a piece of equipment, that there's somebody like you that can take their idea and then make it into a reality if it's possible, and come up with some very interesting things. And I think that, that's how we move forward in the new technology in this field, because there are so many people that, like you, again, you and I, who are kind of really stuck with the old premise of, if it's not broke, why fix it? And, our trusty, audio recorder, camera, and just our intuition was really all we ever needed on an investigation, and we're completely okay with that. But, times are changing. And, we've got technology now that's, getting Class A EVPs every time, not just one out of every 100 EVPs. So I think that all of the new equipment that is being created and tested out there and utilized in the videos and posting all this stuff on social media, definitely is the way to get the information out. But I definitely see a spike. And I am actually going to say over the next 2 years, I definitely feel that there's going to be a spike in not only requests for paranormal equipment, and it'll be people will be looking for more custom type work because they'll have the ideas, they just won't know how to implement it. So I think for you in that aspect is going to be a big marketing point for you, is that, you know, you can do custom work. So keep that in the back of your mind. But I think that you're definitely, for this next year to 2 years, you're gonna definitely see an increase in the sales of wanting equipment. The only thing is that, you know, how long does it actually take to, you know, make, like, say, a standard piece of equipment opposed to something, you know, more complex? Since you're having to kind of really build this from scratch, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything that a lot of people, like for some of the stuff, I guess they make templates and stuff for them, and I don't. I actually, when I'm making my lot of attachments or whatever, I actually measure everything out and draw my little lines on it and drill everything and hand solder all the connections and everything. So it's time consuming. I would say something basic like that may take several hours. Of course, now, like if I'm building like a REM pod or something like that, then you're looking at probably a full day of putting something together like that. So, I mean, it is time consuming, and I don't charge for my labor. I mean, you know, a lot of people's like, you know, you're selling this for this price, but it's taking you like a week to make this, and, you know, you're not charging for your labor. Yeah, I'm not. And I know it sounds ridiculous, and a lot of people think it's crazy, but it's just the way it is. You know, if I charge for my labor on some of this stuff, I mean, then it would be priced to the normal price as like the factory-made stuff. And
right.
I just don't believe in doing that. I try to make stuff better quality than the stuff that's out there, using better stuff that you're not going to have trouble with 3 or 5 years down the road that you would with some of the stuff that's bought that a factory's made. And of course, I know that, you know, you're dealing with electronics, so, you know, anything could happen. But knock on wood, as long as I've been in business, I've never had anything come back. I've never had anything faulty, except for one exception, which was not my doing. But I feel that for me, dealing with the equipment, that means a lot to me, because I know a ton of people that's bought like REM pods and everything else, and, you know, they had to send them back and, you know, buy a new one or whatever.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because sometimes you'll buy this stuff and, you know, once you buy it, you know, it for some reason isn't working anymore or whatever. That's just too bad. You just have to go buy another one, you know. And they are kind of like made crappy, so even if they do have a warranty, say they'll come with a 1-year warranty, just like with cars, it seems like, you know, as soon as that warranty's up, you know, all of a sudden, you know, that's when you're going to start having problems, and it's, you know, going to break down. It used to just make me laugh how things would work just on such a time, things like that. Anytime a warranty on anything is, you know, about to go out, you have no problems, and then all of a sudden, you know, go ahead and let the warranty lapse, and then all of a sudden, you know, something pops up that is messed up on it or whatever. So I think, you know, having a piece of equipment that, again, you are getting for a lower price, it is not just mass-produced. Each one is handmade and really custom built, because, I mean, if you're not using a template, although you're kind of just doing them now because you know how to do it, still, each one could end up being just a little bit different depending on what somebody wants, and the fact that, people can actually get some custom equipment is, for a good price or something that people can afford. Really, there's not a lot out there. I mean, there are, as I said, a lot of growing online sites that are now selling paranormal equipment, but usually it's like they're buying these kits and then reselling them, or, wholesaling equipment through their own sites and things like that. So, I mean, they're just selling mass-produced units or, very simple lights and, things like that they're making. But I think that you have a lot to offer, and I'm definitely know on my page and in my group and things like that, I'd love to, help promote what you're doing and bring you some business because, again, I think that, right now so many people are really wanting to get some equipment. They just don't have the money, and so if they can get something that is, fairly well priced, even if they have to save up a little bit for it, they can, get something that maybe nobody else has, and I think that's very interesting.
Well, and a lot of people don't know, but, and I'm easy to work with. I mean, if someone needs something and, and they're trying to save up money or whatever, I mean, if they want to contact me, we can work out some kind of payment arrangement, like a layaway or something. I mean, I'm flexible.
Oh, wow.
So I try to work with everybody, and, if somebody's looking for something or in need of some kind of equipment, by all means, they can contact me and we can work something out.
All right. Well, if people are wanting to get a hold of you now, I will, number one, put up your Facebook link as well as, any sites or anywhere that you'd like me, any links you'd like me to post up on my pages. But for those people that are looking to maybe want to order some equipment through you, how do they find you, or how can they find your equipment?
Well, I need to go in. Like I said, I've kind of taken a break from social media, so I've kind of let my Facebook page, my business page, kind of go for a while, and so I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things. I need to update a lot of stuff, but if someone needs to get in touch with me, they can find me on my Facebook page. It's Gary Brown. Or they can send me a message on my business page at Spirit Paranormal Equipment. And, of course, if they want to send me an email, it's Spirit Paranormal Equipment at gmail.com. And I've got a website, but it's actually down right now. I'm changing some stuff on it as we speak. But it should be up and running within probably the next day or so.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, once you do get it up, feel free to, send me the link, and, I'll be sure to add it to my page and help promote it. Because, again, I think that, what you're offering is a great service to a lot of, I just know so many teens out there that would love to have some equipment, and the main thing I always hear is, oh my gosh, it's just so overpriced. Like you can't afford to get anything. You got to save up for a long time just to get one piece of equipment for a group. So I think, for people to be able to have somebody that they can go to and have experience building this kind of equipment for this field specifically, I think that it's amazing. And, I appreciate that you're out there doing this, and not trying to make a fortune off of people and, charging exorbitant amounts, making it, affordable, because it's definitely all this that we do to help people, comes out of our own pocket. So it definitely can start to get pricey after a while.
Right.
People don't take that into consideration.
Yeah, it gets
expensive. Good. Go ahead and finish what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, it really does. It gets expensive trying to buy all this stuff up at one time.
Well, I've got another question. So, we talked a little bit about, the top 5 places that you have gone and investigated already. But let's talk about the top 5, because we've got about 8 more minutes to go in the show. Let's talk about the top 5 places that if you could investigate anywhere in the world, what would those 5 places be and why?
Oh, God, there's so many. Well, now, one of the places which I've investigated there, I would like to have a little bit more to there back a couple of years ago. Of course, Tombstone's coming up, so that should be fun.
That would be on your bucket list?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Alcatraz, that would probably have to be one.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get something up, an event there or something.
Yeah, I know Carol's actually been, working on it. From what I understand, it's pretty hard to get like an overnight, lockdown type of setup there. But I will tell you, I've gone there multiple times. Being a child that grew up in Northern California, and I think of prison, and people that are very angry. There's a lot of violence that happens in there, a lot of murders and deaths. So there's a lot of residual energy in these places. And I'll tell you, to even though they've been shut down and out of, service for so many years, it is absolutely blows me away every time I go into a place like that and I walk through the doors and it's just like, oh my God, it's like if it had just happened. So I wonder if it's going to, how it would be, at Alcatraz, not only with all that energy, but then with a whole bunch of people, stuck on an island surrounded by water.
Right, yeah, that would be interesting.
Definitely be an interesting event for sure. But, I know that there is that in the works, and I think that it'll be definitely, if it's able to do one, I know that that's been, a hot spot that people have been talking about for a very long time, and I know they have done some, daytime events there. So, and I think that even something like that would probably even work, just a one-day event where people could come, because I know that all the times that I've been to Alcatraz, other than once, had always been during the daytime, and the activity was crazy during the daytime. So I can only imagine what it's like, at bedtime. So.
Oh, I bet.
So we never know. I really, to be honest, I'm truly looking forward to Tombstone. I think staying in the rooms, being able to investigate all the different areas of the town, I just think it's going to be a very, very interesting time for people. I'm going to be very interested to interview a lot of the people who are going to be attending to see what they're picking up and how they feel, what kind of evidence they get. I think that's really interesting to use for the show. So I have to have you come and talk on the show. I think I'm going to do the show, on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we'll have some evidence to share with everybody after the weekend.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Well, I want to, again, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight and, discussing all the different paranormal equipment, offering up your own story of what brought you into the paranormal and, everything that you do to kind of help people back and help more people be able to get out there and get the evidence and bring it forward. So thank you so much for all of that.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you, and we have about 3 minutes left, everybody. So we'd just like to say thank you to all the listeners. Every week the listeners grow and grow and grow, and it just absolutely blows me away that there's that many people out there that want to listen to what myself and my guests have to say. So really do have to say, thank you to all of you, because if there wasn't, my listeners, there would be nobody, no reason for there to be Paranormal Connections, radio show. I do have a few things in the works. We are thinking about, I've been given the opportunity to take the show and simulcast it with a video show. So I would like to get some feedback from the listeners. So if you could go to either Twitter or the Paranormal Connections Facebook page and leave your feedback, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to really see if I want to do that. It's a whole nother genre, I guess, being on video, different from being on just regular live radio. But hey, if that's what the listeners want to have, I'm all for it. So definitely need the feedback. Also, make sure to check out both the Paranormal Connections Facebook page, and make sure to like that page and add us on Twitter under Paranormal Connections. So, all right, everybody, we're at the end of the show. I just want to say, again, thank you. Next week we will be back with another show. Also, make sure to check out my other show, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond, this Wednesday, same time, same network. Hope to see you all there. All right, good night, everyone, and good night. Thank you so much, Greg. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.